all-round package. So all of a sudden, you might be in for a championship contender. Scott McLaughlin, he might be the man.
Oh, we'll have to wait and see, won't we? But what is going to be really interesting is how this battle between DJR Team Penske and the Red Bull Holden Racing team goes to the next level. And we know that Shane will start from 7th on the grid this afternoon. Always manages to work his way through the field, and he didn't quite get to do that in race 1. He finished back in 6th and started from 7th in that one. Do you think he'll play a bigger part in the battles up front here this afternoon as well?
Oh, I think he's going to have to start a little bit up front, or unless something goes real pear-shaped to the front and he gets through. But you never know with Shane. I mean, Shane has a big dip when the car's under him. He goes hard. So, yeah, look, there's no doubt about it. Michael Caruso also, I like to throw him in there as well, because he came in 5th in the first race, and he's qualified 5th this time as well. So he's qualified a little bit further up. So the Nissans are going pretty good as well, as we saw in Adelaide.
Absolutely, and we made the point before, Simona Di Silvestro finishing 13th.
Wow.
How impressed are you?
Oh, look, super impressed. I was impressed with her at Adelaide. The toughest, hottest, most physical race you could ever get. And she got out and did an interview afterwards, and she looked better than half the guys that jumped out. So that was impressive in itself, impressive performance, but to finish 13th. But this will suit her too, because these are like European circuits as well. So that's why she went well. Good on her.
Yeah, fresh as a daisy. Let's see how she fares here in race 2. Let's head to commentary now and say good afternoon to Jack Perkins and Richard Crowell.
Later on in the weekend. Now, we were talking about the significance of that victory. It's the first for DJR Team Penske as an entity since Roger Penske bought into the team a couple of years ago. And a few comments, oh, it's non-championship, it doesn't matter. Don't believe a word of it. Roger Penske was watching near on midnight in Detroit, USA. He was watching race 1, straight away on the phone to Scott McLaughlin, dropped him a text message. Very, very happy about getting that first Supercars victory. So if Roger Penske thinks it's all right, so do I.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely... I mean, these guys are all here, and girls, are all here this weekend to put their best foot forward, regardless of what they say. And Team Penske have hit the ground running this year. They're absolutely on song. Both qualified 1st and 2nd for these first 2 races. So we've got Scotty on 2nd, Fabian off pole. And, yeah, we saw Tim Cindric was tweeting straight after the race as well. So both Penske people in America and Australia are watching these events, and a win's a win, mate, and unfortunately there was no points. But again, we look now, they're forming up for a dual file rolling start, which is something we only see at the Australian Grand Prix. So Fabian Coulthard is on the right-hand side of the racetrack, Scott McLaughlin on the left. Once a red light goes out, we're away and racing.
And in race 1, it was Jamie Whincup who was the best of the rolling starters, because he ended up first at the end of lap 1 after the seas parted in front. So let's see what the teammates do. Fabian Coulthard on pole, McLaughlin alongside, the lights are out and we're underway in race 2. This time it's Chaz Mostert with a good start, but there's nowhere for the PRA Ford to go. And Coulthard this time's got a good run. Caruso dive bombs down the inside. Great stuff from the Nissan. He's got Whincup. He's going to get Mostert. He's going to be P3. What a start.
There's a bit of action back in the back of the pack, but Michael Caruso, what a start. Did a great job up the inside. He's clear of Chaz Mostert. Garth Tander up the inside now. Another great start. He's into 4th, but look at that. Chaz has been elbowed wide as we see Shane Van Gisbergen there on the outside of Chaz Mostert looking to get forward.
Everyone through okay now. Tander started this one 8th. He's up to P4. Awesome start. A little bit of contact between the 2 teammates from ProDrive Racing. Winterbottom into Waters. Had a up and down run, you could say, in race 1 earlier today. Cam Waters keeps it on the island this time, but got some work to do. So Tander up to 4th place from 8th.
Whincup, a big loser, back to 7th. He started that race in 3rd, and he's been shuffled right back there, even behind his teammate, behind Chaz Mostert.
And Moffat looking down the inside. Moffat had a really good run in race 1 earlier today, well inside the top 10. Positive signs for Gary Rogers Motorsport after the off-season switch back to Holden's.
So it's Fabian Coulthard, Scott McLaughlin, a little bit of a gap back to Caruso and Tander. It's interesting to see, when you see that car, you don't picture Garth Tander, but good to see him back in the GRM colours, him back on board a Commodore. And great start for them to be running as high as 4th.
How was Caruso? Just popped the nose down the inside at turn 1 and hoped that it would stick, and it did, and the Nissan emerged in P3. Terrific stuff. There's Tim Slade looking down the inside of Craig Lowndes, and Waters just in front. David Reynolds behind. His first laps haven't been spectacular today. He started this one reasonably well, did Reynolds, from P10, and he's dropped 4 spots again. So his opening lap in race 1 was horrible. Ended up at the back of the field from P5 on the grid. And now he's got Todd Kelly in his driver's side door in the car sales Nissan. So, end of lap 1. It's Fabian Coulthard in front of Scott McLaughlin, Caruso, Tander, Van Gisbergen, Mostert, Whincup back to 7th. From 3rd on the grid, remember. Then back to Will Davison in 9th, and Waters rounding out the top 10. Behind them, they're 3 wide into turn 1. Scott Pye goes down the inside. Busy move, and Reynolds lost more spots.
So Todd Kelly was up the inside of David Reynolds in the last corner. It looks like they were having a bit of a drag race down the straight. Scott Pye was able to get the double slipstream and get up the inside, but Todd's going to try and hang around the outside and make an argument of this. James Courtney's in the mix too. He started off the back row, having missed his qualifying run, using too much track limits, so he's made a few positions as well, up to 17th there.
Busy, isn't it? Bit going on. There's Rick Kelly in the middle of that. Taz Douglas just behind in the LD Motorsport car. Actually, I thought Taz was a quiet achiever in race 1. He stayed out of drama and got a reasonable result in his 2nd event for that team, filling in that spare seat at LD Motorsport alongside the teenager Alex Rouleau. Very experienced head on those shoulders. Taz was a big fan. He works in earth-moving equipment in his, well, professional life, and was pretty happy with the afternoon races because he got in a couple of hours, clocked on this morning.
Yeah, he's a good lad, Taz. Absolutely. He was sitting on the excavator when Lucas first called him about filling in for Clipsal, and he actually owns a greyhound with a few of the drivers out there, so they're all having a bit of a laugh that the dog is going to be racing too. So that's a bit of fun for you, but good to see Taz out there having a drive. He's one of the good guys of the category.
So this Garth Tander, he's got Shane Van Gisbergen, the reigning champ, behind him. So let's have a look at the start. Watch car 23, 3rd row of the grid. Red Nissan, left of screen. Busy behind, that was Dale Wood trying to pop his nose out and pass guys in the grass, and that generally doesn't happen. So watch Caruso and watch for GT just to follow him through here. So Tander gets a great run. He'll gobble up Jamie Whincup around the outside. Oh, that was interesting. That was Simona Di Silvestro and Dale Wood, and Wood was launched into the air off the Harvey Norman Nissan.
Lots happening down at turn 1. There always is. They come from 4 or 5 wide and then has to squeeze into 1 or 2. And teammates touching here. Tim Edwards wouldn't be very impressed with that, but look, it's racing hard, first lap, and elbows are out.
That could have been a very big crash at that point. Narrow racetrack funneling up towards turn 6. Now Mostert looking up the inside of Shane Van Gisbergen. This for 5th and 6th. Gets down the inside, but SVG will have the racing line. And he holds on, but he's under serious pressure from Chaz, who was 3rd in race 1 early on today. He's got good pace in the super cheap auto Ford. Meanwhile, the 2 DJR Team Penske Shell cars escape out in front.
The Red Bull car pace is not what we expect. I mean, Jamie still managed to qualify on pole for the race on Sunday, but both races, we've seen them in various aspects of the race just come under a lot of pressure from faster cars behind, and Shane doesn't look racy here at all. I mean, Chaz is right on him and definitely got more pace, and Jamie, you know, obviously dropped back quite a lot at the start as well. So the race pace there, obviously not where they want to be. They'll definitely tell us they're only trying a few new things, but I'm sure they'd be very disappointed with the performance so far. I know Roland likes to turn up in front of the Formula 1 paddock and do a really good job and show that Red Bull can dominate both categories.
It's interesting to see Derek Warwick, the former Formula 1 driver and initially a partner in Triple Eight Race Engineering, jump into the passenger seat of one of the Red Bull Commodores for a hot lap on Thursday here at Albert Park. Derek would have thoroughly enjoyed that. Mostert again on Van Gisbergen. Derek actually raced at Mount Panorama in the Super Touring Bathurst 1000s in a Triple Eight Vectra, I think it was, back in the day.
Chaz is right on him here. He's looking for the move. Shane's not making it easy, and he's turned around. That looked like it was almost destined to happen, mate. Chaz had shown the nose in the last couple of corners. And there's contact further down the field. That's James Moffat.
He had nowhere to go.
Straight into the front of Shane Van Gisbergen. Damage to both cars.
And Shane was trying to turn the car around. Moffat still racing. Need to see a replay of that to make a call, but race control will look at it and about Shane's attempt to get the car pointed in the other direction, but he was driving the wrong way. And meanwhile, Tim Slade continues to battle his way forward. He's up to 9th place. And safety car boards and flags in the background, so the race will be neutralised while that debris is cleaned up at the penultimate corner at Albert Park.
Prime example, mate. If someone tells you these boys aren't racing hard at the Australian Grand Prix, right there is the reason that they definitely are. They're racing hard. Chaz looked to put the move on Shane. Shane there just going to the aid of Moff to make sure he's all good, and probably maybe just a bit of sorry about that, mate. I got turned around by Chaz, and they both move on, and unfortunately 2 damaged Holden Commodores.
Quite badly damaged too. They should get them fixed, but a long way till race 3 tomorrow. So Van Gisbergen and Moffat will walk back to the Supercar garages here in the Coatside Supercar Challenge. Fabian Coulthard leads his teammate Scott McLaughlin and Michael Caruso in the safety car back for the resumption of racing after this. At Albert Park, race 2 of the Coatside Supercars Challenge as our coverage of a big opening day in the Formula One Rolex Australian Grand Prix continues. This is why Shane van Gisbergen under brakes down into the second to last turn at Albert Park. Mostert down the inside, contact between the two. The worst is yet to come because James Moffat unsighted will come into view.
That's the camera angle I wanted to see, and it does look like Chaz wasn't far enough up the inside, but watch this. Moff unsighted, he was right behind Craig Lowndes, and Shane just started to edge forward a bit as well. So just one of those unfortunate situations when you've got a car backwards in the middle of the racetrack.
I think that would have happened had Shane stopped or not. Now, during the break, we saw Simona Di Silvestro parked to the side of the road, and this is why that car's had some serious dramas. Actually nerfed the barrier there.
Yeah, that didn't look quite right. I saw her lap 1, turn 1, have a lot of contact with the front. It looks like there might have been a bit of damage there, and to lock both fronts and end up straight ahead, I'd suggest that wasn't all her doing, so it must have been something else there.
So we're under safety car. It's Coulthard, McLaughlin, Caruso, Tander and Winterbottom, the top 5. And Mark Larker might have more from pit lane. He's talking to Roland Dane. Larko?
Shane, hey mates, I reckon you're a bit unlucky there. I don't know if you just caught that replay. I did, and I don't think Chaz was quite up there far enough. Did you see him?
I had a pretty good view of it, yeah. He was ducking out, being quite aggressive. He was quite speedy. So I saw him there, and then, you know, under brakes, he was so far back. I looked, saw him move, and, oh, yep, too far back. So I turned in, gave him a little bit of space, but, you know, he was nowhere near close enough. So that's the end result. We got T-boned, unfortunately, by James, but he's okay. It was a pretty big hit, but yeah, real shame. We've made some good improvements for the car, and we were hoping to chase down the leaders then, but it is what it is.
Anyway, you're a championship leader at the moment, mate. You're in good shape. Look forward to seeing you at Symmons Plains. Hey, Roland Dane, team principal or team owner here. We've talked about the incident. I think Shane was a bit unlucky there, but let's talk about the team more in general. Very dominant at Clipsal. You've got this challenge emerging from Team DJR Penske, Roland. You've been so used to being out front and being chased. Those guys are there with you and probably going to continue to be so. You're up for the challenge, and in fact, I'd suggest you're going to relish in the challenge.
I think we will relish in the challenge and probably make us better as a result. Yeah, we had a big challenge in 2015 with ProDrive, and Winterbottom finally won the championship. And it made us raise our game again for 2016 and win it back. So we're up for it this year. I think there's going to be ebbing and flowing between those two teams, in particular, in us and Penske. That's probably the way it should be.
I guess the obvious question, though, when you look from the outside for people at home, I mean, you guys do things so well here. I mean, you've got to go back and say, where does a team like this lift its game? I mean, you've arguably got two of the very best drivers in the pit lane. You've got the best engineers. I mean, it's a great team, good leadership. What do you go back, where do you look?
Yeah, we've got to look at the technical package at the end of the day that we're putting on track, and we've got to constantly improve it and try and understand the tyre and our balance of the car as well as we can. I mean, I'll never be as rich as Roger Penske, but hopefully it's not just doesn't come down to money. You know, I think we're smart enough to be able to come up with our own solutions, and they'll fight hard and we'll fight hard, and hopefully it's a good scrap for everyone to watch.
So that might be the reason you don't often buy me a drink at the bar, mate. I thought it was because you didn't like me, you didn't agree on much, but that's great to know. Thanks, RD. Appreciate the chat.
Thanks, Larko. With Shane van Gisbergen at the start there as well. Fairly philosophical about the incident. Just another look at it there. Nowhere poor old James Moffat can do. He was trying to passing manoeuvre around the outside as well. So we remain under that safety car with Coulthard in front of McLaughlin.
Roland sounded a bit flat there. I think the pressure of, you know, what's happening out there is obviously starting to realise, and it's great for the sport to have people be able to stand up to rise to the challenge, as they say. Red Bull have been dominating in recent years, and Penske have come up and they're really doing a great job this weekend. So, I mean, Shane's still leading the championship. It's not doom and gloom for that race team, but obviously there's a lot of pressure there, and it's good to see. It's good for the sport.
Bumped into a fan in the paddock before who was delighted and told me it. Race 1 reminded him of the glory days of 88, 89 and the Shell Sierras. Sort of thought he might have been jumping the gun a little bit too early, but nevertheless, it's great to see fans of that storied Dick Johnson racing team, which has been given such a new lease on life with the investment from Roger Penske and what that group brings to the operation. finally getting some success in their first win in Supercars as a category coming early on today. At the moment, they're 1-2 in this race. Caruso third, then Tander Winterbottom, Davison, Mostert, Whincup, Slade and Waters the top 10. Saw an interesting comment from Scott McLaughlin, Jack, after that race saying we're actually running quite separate setups in the two cars in 12 and 17, but we're achieving the same performance. And he was very buoyed by the fact that they're engineering the cars differently but achieving the same sort of performance, which bodes well for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and look, that's not uncommon. You know, a lot of teams, the drivers will be able to get the same lap time, but they need different means to achieve that lap time. So Fabian Coulthard, left foot braker, for example. Scott McLaughlin uses the right foot. So straight away, you've got a different approach from the brake into the entry to the corner. So that'll, you know, need different setup changes and things as well. So it's not too dissimilar.
We're going to take another break while we're under safety car. We'll come back with green flag racing at Albert Park right after this. We've the sides of racing cars going racing at Albert Park. We've just gone back to green, and Fabian Coulthard was able to maintain his ascendancy on the run down into turn one after a challenge from Scott McLaughlin. Caruso remains third, Garth Tander fourth, and Will Davison has moved to P5. There's also news for car 55. He will serve a drive-through penalty in pit lane for turning around Shane van Gisbergen in that contact at turn 15. Lap 6 of 13. There's 7 laps to go on the timing monitor. May be cut short due to time constraints here at Albert Park. We'll keep you up to speed with that. At the moment, it's still the Shell V-Power Racing Team 1 and 2. Nissan sitting in third place.
The Nissan of Caruso actually got a really good restart. It was a unique double file restart as well, which was pretty cool. It's all happening into turn one, and the end result was status quo for the front four. So we've got Fabian Coulthard, Scott McLaughlin in second. Fabian's got a bit of a gap there to Scotty. Caruso right on the tail of Scott McLaughlin. Good to see the Nissan performing well here. Caruso has had a pole position in that Nissan here a couple of years ago, so very good around this circuit.
Spoke to Richard Emery, the CEO of Nissan Australia at Clipsal 500, and really buoyed by the progress that team's making and their chances for some success as the year goes on. Caruso was often the leading car in that squad last year. The Kelly brothers, who own and run the team, will be very keen for some results on their own. In fact, Todd Kelly's been fiery this weekend. He's 11th at the moment, but he's got a good race start coming up later on in the weekend. So it'll be good fun to watch him go. So it's Fabian Coulthard and then Scott McLaughlin. The margin 1.2 seconds. Can Coulthard hold on and return serve to his young Kiwi teammate from that victory in race one earlier today? And remember, they're racing for a round result like the old days of supercar competition, Jack. So if they finish the way they are, they'll be on 144 points apiece going into race 3. But McLaughlin's got a handicap for that race. He lost his lap time in qualifying 3 for exceeding the track limits, which means he will start 25th.
Yeah, that's hard for Scotty in terms of the round total points score there, but that's what they spoke about. The driver said there was a lot of pressure in qualifying to make sure he got 4 laps, and there was no margin for error because there was no chance of a second flyer. But speaking about Michael Caruso, he's at this point third on the track and third in points. And we spoke about the Nissans, and you know, Michael's definitely the most consistent performer, but when Todd and Rick have good days, their days are just as good as Michael's. But certainly that race win last year in Darwin, the highlight of Caruso's season, and running here against the Penske Falcons will be good encouragement for that team moving forward.
You've had an involvement with Gary Rogers and the boys at GRM for a long time. This is going to be great for them, isn't it, to see Garth Tander P4 after that off-season they've had where they had to build not only 2 new cars for this series, but 2 new cars for the Dunlop Second Division Development Series as well. Amazing performance, and GT running P4 will be a huge boost for them.
Yeah, I mean, the GRM team's not too dissimilar to me at all, having worked with Garth Tander the last couple of years of Holden Racing Team, and also they've got Walkinshaw engines in those cars this year as well. But yeah, the boys and girls down there have done an amazing job to get 4 cars built from scratch. I know the Fab Shop down there, John and the boys would have done a great job to get those cars going, and Garth's repaying that effort now, running 4th. And Garth's one of the best racers out there. You know, he may not have the fastest car or may not qualify on pole position, but I can guarantee you wherever he starts, he'll bring it in higher than where he started. And you know, that's why Gary hired him. You know, he hasn't lost any of that fire to drive, and he does a great job out there, so it's good to see. And like I said, a 4th may not seem like a great result, but it is. It's fantastic. And there ever learning. You know, their data for the last few years has been with a completely different aero package and engine. So every track they go to, not only is Garth Tannen working with Richard Holloway, a new engineer who was Scott's engineer as well, but they're learning the Holden aero with what was the Volvo setup. So that's going to be interesting to see their performances through the rest of the season.
And the word is that both he and James Moffat are speaking the same language about their car. They're saying the same things, the way it behaves, which will mean they'll be able to work very closely together to develop those cars. Good signs for the sport. It's always good fun to have Gary with his cars at the pointy end of the field. Gary and Barry, the Rogers boys at GRM. And right now, they're the leading Holden in the field. Will Davison behind. Good restart for Will. Not so for Mark Winterbottom. He's 6. He got jumped by Davison, but he's also under investigation from race control, and it'll be looked at after this race for a start procedure infringement. We're not sure if that's for the initial race start or the restart. Suspect it might be the latter. And he lost a spot there. So that will be looked at, and Mark Winterbottom might find himself with a penalty of some form after this race.
So we come now, Fabian Coulthard, a 57.0. Scott McLaughlin, 56.9. So Scotty's got a bit of speed here as well. Certainly won't have enough to instantly catch Fabian, but he's close enough to keep the pressure on if Fabian makes a mistake. We see out of that second last corner, there's a lot of coolant and things on the road from where the crash was, so anything can happen when there's a bit of dust there to try and mop up that oil spill, but it's evenly spread now across those first 6 cars.
It's a shame for varying reasons that we had a safety car, but one of them being that this was probably the race where if the lap record was going to go, it might have been this one with the ambient temperature just perfect. 27 degrees outside, track temp, 22 I should say, track temp 27. Sun just off the racetrack, perfect conditions for fast lap times. Craig Lowndes' lap record of 55.9 was set back in 2011. They were doing low 54s in qualifying. I think if they were going to break a lap record, it might have been this race. And Moss has just done a 56.6.
So he's got clean track and he's having a crack at the lap record, but you're right, the safety car takes a lot of the edge out of the grip of the tyres. So these are the ideal conditions. This is when Formula 1 qualifying is going to be tomorrow night. So this is when the track's good, the shadows are long, and the air temperature's good, but the track temperature's good as well.
So we're just waiting on confirmation of race finish time, but Coulthard will be watching that more than anyone because he wants desperately a victory. He was so very good at the Clipsal 500 Adelaide, Fabian Coulthard, and he's had an amazing run at this place too. If you weren't with us for race 1 earlier today, his strike rate coming into the weekend was 16 top 10 finishes from the last 19 races here. So that's now 17 from 20. He won the round here, the event in 2013. So he's had an incredible strike rate. Looking to add to that now, he's got a couple of wins to his credit as well. 34-year-old now based up on the Gold Coast, but originally from New Zealand. He's got great pedigree in the sport. Looking to build sustained success with that Shell-sponsored DJR Team Penske outfit. This should be the final lap of the race, we're being told. So Coulthard by 1.3 seconds. There's battles going on through the field. That's Cam Waters under serious pressure in the Monster Falcon. He's 7th. He's got Whincup and Craig Lowndes and Tim Slade all behind him.
It's good to see Cam having a good run. He had a pretty good run at Adelaide as well, to just miss out on a couple of podiums there, but he had a difficult sort of end to his first season last year. Got battered from pillar to post. Did finish 4th at the Bathurst 1000, which was a great job, but he's really looking to cement himself in this championship this year, and a good solid run inside the top 10 here certainly helps that personal confidence.
And for Craig Lowndes, who started this race at 14th, battling for 1 lap pace in that car. They struggled there in qualifying at the Clipsal 500 as well, working with his new engineer. Of course, Ludo Lacroix off to Shell V-Power Racing. So challenges for Lowndes. In fact, 14th was his best qualifying performance of the entire weekend. But he's worked his way forward into the top 10 just in front of Tim Slade.
Yeah, Lowndes, it's strange to see the other cars perform well at Clipsal and he not so well, but it's still about building that relationship with your engineer, and he worked with Grant Shippey, as we know him, who's now Shane's championship-winning engineer, and they had a good relationship. And then last year, obviously, starting the year with Ludo and then picking up Irish, as he's known, and now starting to build that relationship as the year goes on. So, look, he's not that far, obviously, behind Whincup, so they'll be looking to improve the performance of that car over the weekend and take any gains in form to the next event.
The early hours of the morning in Detroit now, so not sure if Roger Penske's watching. If he is, he'll be very happy indeed, because for the second time today, it'll be a Shell V-Power Racing DJR Team Penske 1-2. This time, though, the positions are reversed. Where earlier it was McLaughlin, now it's Coulthard. He wins race 2. The Coates Hire Supercar Challenge at Albert Park. And it's another 1-2 for those Red Falcons. And that is a sight that will warm the heart, particularly of Ford fans right around Australia. A bit of a drag race to the line there with Jamie Whincup getting squeezed out in the end with Cam Waters and Craig Lowndes in a really good little scrap for the Miners.
It is great for the sport to see those two shell cars up the front. I mean, Dick Johnson, the legacy of the sport's fantastic. And, yeah, it reminds me of the Johnson and Bow days back in the day. So look at the elation in the garage. That's Phil Keed, Fabian Coulthard's engineer. Very happy with that win. And that's a win for both of them, so they are very happy chaps leaving tonight.
Well done.
There's Ryan Story, who's been instrumental in putting a lot of this together. So it's 1-1, and they're tied on points going into race 3. Coulthard and McLaughlin. Fabian will start race 3 from pole, McLaughlin from 3rd, but then Scotty's got the handicap of going from 26th and last in race 4 on Sunday afternoon. So Coulthard, McLaughlin, Caruso, the top 3. Tander 4th will be pleased, then Davis and Winterbottom Waters, Whincup, Lowndes and Slade, the top 10. Todd Kelly just outside it, then Scott Pye, Jason Bright, Rick Kelly, Courtney Reynolds, Blanchard, Douglas, Mostert and Rullo just inside the top 20 for the young rookie, though not classified as it seems at the end of the race. So exciting stuff in the Supercars. There's 2 more races to come this weekend.